Hello everyone. It's great to see you again in today's video. Jack sat next to Tu Tien on a set of exquisitely carved wooden chairs, the two of them drinking tea and chatting very naturally. He leaned towards her, his voice gentle but full of anticipation. Jack said that the house they shared on the farm was almost finished, with only a few parts that needed to be cleaned and rearranged. He wanted to take this opportunity to invite Tu Tien to come in with him, to clean and review everything before officially moving in. Moreover, the workers who were finishing the house had been working for many days. If there was a meal prepared by Tu Tien herself, they would definitely be very happy. After hearing Jack's words, Tu Tien laughed lightly, her eyes sparkling with excitement. She nodded immediately, without any hesitation. "Then let me go change into something more neat and then we'll go," she said happily. "On the way, let's stop by the market to buy some fresh food. Bring it to the farm to cook for the workers. I also want to see how far they've come." Tu Tien went inside to change, while Jack sat outside the table waiting for her. When Tu Tien finished changing and came out, Jack also stood up and walked towards her. They both planned to go to the market later, buy some vegetables, some meat, and some spices so she could show off her cooking skills and cook a delicious meal for everyone at the farm. Just thinking about it made Jack excited for today. On the way back to the farm, Jack and Tu Tien stopped at a small roadside shop to buy some more necessities for lunch. The shop was nestled under an old corrugated iron roof, simple but full of fresh vegetables and fruits. Tu Tien walked to the fruit table neatly arranged in front of the door. She gently lifted each fruit up to look at it, choosing the ripe ones, the skin still faintly covered with morning dew. Her attentive appearance made Jack standing next to her laugh. While Tu Tien was busy choosing the fruit, Jack stood at the counter inside, where the seller was weighing a bunch of green vegetables and a few bags of things he had chosen in advance. He glanced over and saw her still engrossed in the colorful baskets of fruit, her eyes shining with delight. When they had bought everything, the two of them started to pack everything up and put them in the car to go to the farm. When the car stopped in front of the farm gate, Jack got out first, opened the back door and bent down to pick up each bag. Tu Tien also quickly helped him. Together they walked along the entrance covered in the noon sun. Each step echoed softly on the soft ground. Occasionally Jack glanced over to see if Tu Tien was carrying too much, and she smiled softly, saying that she was fine. When they reached the front steps of the small farmhouse, they both put down their things, took a deep breath and looked at each other, smiling a peaceful smile. Entering the farm's new kitchen, Tu Tien glanced around the unfinished kitchen. Tu Tien placed several bags of groceries on the makeshift table, then gently opened each bag. She took out each mango, each bunch of vegetables, and then neatly arranged them in each area as if this kitchen had been familiar to her for a long time. The sound of plastic bags opening, the sound of fruits lightly hitting the table, and the gentle aroma of fresh vegetables quickly spread throughout the unfinished kitchen. Each item she placed seemed to gradually fill the emptiness of the kitchen, making this place more intimate and cozy. When everything was neatly arranged on the temporary table in the unfinished kitchen, Tu Tien gently rolled up her sleeves and began to take out each bunch of vegetables and each fruit to prepare for processing. She held the onion in her hand, the tip of her small knife gliding skillfully through the skin, each movement rhythmic as if she had done it hundreds of times before. Tu Tien's eyes were attentive, focused on each peeling line, her eyelashes fluttering slightly as she bent down under the soft light filtering through the porch. In front of her, the bags of green vegetables, red tomatoes and fresh food she had just bought were gradually being opened, giving off the rustic aroma of new agricultural products. Beside her, the farm's white cat curiously moved closer to the basket of vegetables, causing Tu Tien to chuckle softly and gently shoo it away. After picking the vegetables, Tu Tien gathered them all into a bamboo basket and walked to the faucet located on the side of the kitchen. Jack led the small faucet from a cool stream near the house. The water flowing out was always clear and carried the pleasant coolness of the mountains and forests. Tu Tien turned on the faucet. The cool water immediately poured down on the green leaves in the basket, creating a babbling sound like a real stream flowing right in front of her. She bent down, gently used her hands to stir each bunch of vegetables, letting the dust flow away with the clear water. The scene was simple but strangely beautiful. A girl meticulously washing vegetables by the cool stream, in the middle of a messy farm but full of the breath of new life. While Tu Tien was still washing vegetables under the cool stream water, inside the kitchen, Jack had started to light the fire for her. He bent down, arranged each dry piece of wood together, then used a spark to light it. Crackling sounds rang out as the small flame began to burn into the wood, the fire flickering in the space still filled with the smell of new bricks. Just a few minutes later, the wood pieces began to burn stronger. Thin white smoke rose, seeping into every corner of the kitchen, mixing with the mountain wind to create the familiar musty aroma of meals cooked with a wood stove. When the wood stove Jack had lit was burning evenly, the golden flames lightly licking the bottom of the stove, Tu Tien placed the pot of broth on the grate. The sound of metal hitting the stovetop rang softly, mixed with the crackling sound of firewood, making the kitchen much more lively. She gently dropped the vegetables she had just peeled into the pot. A few slices of onion, white radish, and chopped carrots all fell into the simmering water, giving off a sweet aroma. Tu Tien's hands held a pair of chopsticks, stirring rhythmically. Small swirls rose on the surface of the water, carrying the colors and flavors of the vegetables and blending together. Jack stood next to the stove quietly observing. Smoke from the kitchen drifted around them. The smell of burning wood and the smell of broth mixed together to create an indescribable feeling of warmth. When the pot of broth began to smell sweet, Jack and Tu Tien returned to stand by the newly set-up kitchen table. On the table were all kinds of vegetables and fruits that they had bought that morning, the fresh colors adding life to the kitchen. Tu Tien gently peeled each piece of fruit to prepare dessert for lunch. The knife blade slid through the smooth skin, revealing the sweet and fragrant fruit inside. Jack stood close by, holding a bunch of herbs still covered in dew, using a small knife to cut each leaf one by one. The sound of the knife tapping on the cutting board mixed with the gentle aroma of coriander, basil, and chives wafted in the wind. He occasionally glanced over at Tu Tien. Seeing her diligently peeling the fruit, he couldn't help but smile. The two stood next to each other, each with one hand, but they were in a very natural rhythm, one preparing the sweet dessert, the other taking care of the vegetables for the nearly finished bowl of noodles. When everything was ready, the kitchen table was neat with all the ingredients cut and sliced. Jack and Tu Tien started to take out the noodle boxes that they had prepared in advance. Tu Tien gently opened the lid of the box, picked up each portion of soft white noodles, and put them into each box. Jack stood in front of Tu Tien and used a large ladle to scoop the broth into the noodle box that Tu Tien had prepared. Each time he poured the water, the steam rose up, making his face red, but his eyes lit up with satisfaction as he watched each portion of noodles gradually become complete. When he finished pouring the broth, he placed each box neatly and called the workers to come out to get the noodles to eat. The workers who were working in the yard heard, happily stopped their work and came closer. They thanked the two. Each received a portion of steaming noodles and brought them into the farmhouse to sit and eat. Seeing everyone happily carrying their food, Tu Tien and Jack looked at each other, their hearts filled with a warm feeling of a simple lunch filled with care and affection from both of them. When everything was ready, the kitchen table was neat with all the ingredients cut and sliced. Jack and Tu Tien started to take out the noodle boxes that they had prepared in advance. Tu Tien gently opened the lid of the box, picked up each portion of soft white noodles, and put them into each box. Jack stood in front of Tu Tien and used a large ladle to scoop the broth into the noodle box that Tu Tien had prepared. Each time he poured the water, the steam rose up, making his face red, but his eyes lit up with satisfaction as he watched each portion of noodles gradually become complete. When he finished pouring the broth, he placed each box neatly and called the workers to come out to get the noodles to eat. The workers who were working in the yard heard, happily stopped their work and came closer. They thanked the two. Each received a portion of steaming noodles and brought them into the farmhouse to sit and eat. Seeing everyone happily carrying their food, Tu Tien and Jack looked at each other. Their hearts filled with a warm feeling of a simple lunch filled with care and affection from both of them.